Hello, my random viewers, and welcome to Randomly Offensive. Today, we will be continuing Genetic Wars, which is in itself a continuation of Genetic Blessings. And if you have not seen Genetic Blessings or the previous chapters of Genetic Wars, I will have them, or at least try to have them, linked at the tippy top of this corner right here, right now. Please do forgive me if I forget. I am very, very tired, and I only have about 2.5 hours before 6 o'clock Monday morning, which is when I want this to be up. I may not make it by then, but we'll see what happens. So, with that being said, let's continue with Genetic Wars, Chapter 5. Alex, Walter, Al, Howard, and Abraham stare blankly at Vince for the information that he had just delivered them, informing them that he was released by the Guardian with the exact ultimatum of either killing Walter or allowing Al to die, and being given only 7 days to do so, with only 4 days left to accomplish it, and then informing them of his own plan and the fact that he had found out that Alex has fallen in love with this Walter. He is unable to bring himself to hurt Alex and to hurt someone so close to him and remove someone so important in her life. But he also refuses to allow Al to pass away or be brutally murdered, and he will not allow himself to lose his best friend. So he decided to wage war once again on the Guardian, on Dracula, and try to cripple his army as much as humanly possible, which had been accomplished by removing all finances, followed by destroying as many camps, as many labs and projects, and destroying everything that makes the Genetic Blessings army any threat to the human race. And with it being accomplished, Dracula had decided to gain revenge and provide the Yin Yangs and Vince a warning by decapitating Zorg and leaving his head impaled on a spear for them to find. With the majority of the team speechless, Abraham removes his hat to mourn and respect the mention of Zorg's name, with then looking at Vince. So, you were given a clear task, a clear mission, and let me get this straight. Instead of coming to us right away, instead of talking to us right away, you decided to poke the hive. You decided to anger a man that we know we don't stand a chance against. You decided to make the situation worse because you didn't want to kill Alex's boyfriend and you didn't want your friend to die. So it was perfectly fine to let Zorg be brutally murdered. Or even myself, or maybe Howard. That would have been just perfectly fine with you, wouldn't it, Vince? As long as no one close to you dies, you're just perfectly fucking happy, aren't you? Responds Abraham, with clear anger boiling within him, with Vince not knowing how to respond, and barely being able to recognize Abraham, for Abraham, more often than not, is a pacifist and tends to keep his thoughts to himself. Though 7 years absolutely can change a man, especially if it is 7 years of war. And though Abraham has aggressively spoken out towards Vince, no one else utters a word, not even Vince, as they all remain silent for quite some time, forcing Abraham to just simply stew in his own anger, with Walter having more of a concerned look on his face than he has ever had before, and Alex had noticed that Walter's entire demeanor had changed at the mention of Al's potential death, and fear had stricken him for some odd reason. Not at the mention of his own death by Vince, but only at the mention of Al's potential death. And Alex had noticed that for some reason, that mention, that sentence, that Al may die, struck more fear into Walter than Alex had ever seen before. And after stewing for quite some time, Walter begins to leave the HQ without uttering a word to anybody, with Howard finally standing up from his chair, for he had been sitting quite relaxed with his legs resting on the table in the center, and with a flick of his wrist, nonchalantly tosses his hat onto the table and looks at Vince with somewhat of a cocky smirk.
Now, I ain't gonna lie, son, you have got us in quite a pickle, haven't you? Yeah, you've done fucked up, because winning a war in 4 days? That's just dang dumb impossible, but I do have a plan that may actually cause us to win it in 3 days, mind you, 3 days. So, with your permission, with all of your permission, I would be much more obliged to introduce this plan of mine that could save all of our bums, eh?
Says Howard, with Abraham, Al, and Alex looking at him quite intrigued, with Vince lighting up a cigarette and crossing his arms as he condescendingly looks at Howard.
You think that you have solved our problem, have you? You actually think that you can allow us to win this war and kill Dracula in 3 days? If it was that simple, why don't you think that I would have come up with such a plan?
Well,
because believe it or not, Vince, you ain't no god, eh? I am quite skilled at this type of stuff. I've been at it for only 7 years now. So, would you like to hear what I have to offer?
Responds Howard, with Vince looking down at his feet and then looking at Abraham, Al, and Alex, with them all looking very supportive at Howard.
Very well. Go ahead. What is your plan?
Well, it is quite simple, actually.
It is quite simple. You see, winning a war is a lot like giving a blowjob. You want to start off slow and gentle, and you want to work the areas around your main target. Get your main target prepped. And then once your main target is prepped, and that is the only target you have left, then you still go in gentle, a little bit at a time. Just a tad bit more every time you go back down. And then, once you feel like you're about to accomplish the impossible, you hold your breath and you go at it all the way until your target has finally reached its end and can't do no more to hurt you.
Responds Howard, with Vince not knowing how to take this, with Al scratching the top of his head.
Wait, hold on. So, are we the woman in this analogy?
Says Al, with Vince getting even more frustrated and more confused at where this might be going, with Al then letting out a grunt.
Oh, damn it, Howard. Now I can't stop picturing Vince giving someone a blowjob. Whoa, hold on. Why am I the woman in this scenario?
Responds Vince, with Howard now getting angry at all of them.
Well, now, the analogy don't work if you make it awkward.
responds Howard, with Al getting even more frustrated with Howard. The analogy was always awkward, dude. I don't think you should be comparing war to something like that. I'm not gonna be able to fight without that in my head now.
Again, Al, I would like to know why I'm the woman in this analogy.
No one's the woman in this analogy. It was a bad representation. Okay, look. I'm going to map this out for you guys real clear. And then we're going to start today. As soon as the sun rises, we are going to start today. And then, within 3 days, this war will be all but done. Now, Dracula is going to be residing in Pennsylvania because the majority of his army is going to be stationed in Pennsylvania. He's proving a point. It's out of principle that they are there. They have taken over an entire state. And with that being said, I do believe deeply in my gunslinging heart that Dracula is there on a regular basis because he's got to make sure that his army, his main troopers, are confident that he will always be there for them when they need him. That in Pennsylvania is a great place to inspire fear unto America. And if you inspire fear unto America, you inspire fear in the rest of the world. With that said, we now have our first target, sons. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the perfect place and the perfect opportunity to force the genetic blessings that fight for Dracula to switch sides and come to our side, come to the side that is guaranteed to win. You said it yourself, Vince, you had already taken care of all their finances. They have no income, they have no money, which, when it comes to oil, when it comes to weapons and gear and food and everything you need to win a war, money is God, and their God has left them. You took it away. So, quite simply put, my ladies and gentlemen, we need to attack Pennsylvania once again. And we don't have to win. We just have to make Dracula bleed. We have to injure Dracula in front of all of his most loyal subjects. If we injure Dracula in front of his most loyal subjects, they will question everything, because they're gonna already be beginning to struggle when it comes to food, when it comes to equipment and oil. With no money and a weak leader that can be killed, they will begin to fear their own demise. As Al is listening to Howard, he then walks to him. So, you're telling us that it is as simple as just attacking Pennsylvania and hurting Dracula, and we win. It's that easy. We win the war just by doing that, says Al, with Howard shaking his head, along with Abraham and Vince, with Al then beginning to feel somewhat dumb. As he looks over to Alex, Alex just shrugs her shoulders. I have no idea what's going on, says Alex, with Abraham walking towards Howard. No, it is not that simple, is it, Howard? I do believe what Howard is saying is that all we can do is injure Dracula, meaning that we won't be leaving there alive, will we? Says Abraham, with Howard then looking at Vince. Now, you got one thing right, but you got the other thing wrong, Abraham. Brit boy,
We ain't all going there. Some of us need to be left alive. We're doing this to make sure that Al doesn't die. We're doing this to make sure Walter doesn't die. Alex cannot die. And Abraham, you are the most powerful genetic blessing I've ever met. You are an asset. And Vince, well, Vince beating Dracula wouldn't prove a damn thing, now would it? A genetic blessing, as powerful and as popular and as respected and as feared as Vince, wouldn't prove a damn thing if all he's able to do is injure Dracula. They'd see that as a win, says Howard, with Al, Abraham, and Alex now getting concerned, with Vince gently putting his hand on Howard's shoulder. It has to be a human being. It has to be a human that injures Dracula. Think about it. If someone as weak as a human being, if a normal person can injure the most powerful of them all, the Guardian, Count Dracula, then Dracula's army will begin to doubt if they are truly superior to the human race. Not only that, but they will absolutely doubt if they will be capable of beating the human race now that they have genetic blessings on their side. So, with a crippled army and genetic blessings already joining the human race, a human, a mere mortal, injuring their great and powerful leader will actually force them to switch sides. Only the most loyal of them will stay with Dracula, giving us the upper hand. Such an upper hand that we might actually be able to win the war only 2 days afterwards, giving us the 3-day timeline that Howard had quoted. Am I hitting the nail on the head? You daggum right, Vince. You got it all right. Very well. And forgive me for asking, but exactly whom do you intend on pulling this off? Well, now, you know I'm more than capable. I can do it. But, seeing that it is a suicide mission, the price will be high. And you are gonna have to pay up, son. And not after the job's done. You're gonna have to pay up right now, responds Howard, with Abraham rubbing his forehead. Oh, please. There for a second I thought you were being righteous. Why do you have to make this about money? If you're not gonna live long enough to spend it, what's the point in making it? Says Abraham, with Alex looking at Howard concerned. 'Cause it's not for him, is it? Howard, that money isn't gonna be for you, will it? Well, that ain't none of your business, young lady. That ain't none of any of your business. The price is $5 million. Take it or leave it.
Meanwhile, Walter stands a far distance away from the HQ, hidden by all the trees between him and the others, as he crosses his 2 index fingers and then rotates his hand so that he can also cross his pinky fingers and raises them up into the sky and whispers. Though the words that he whispers are impossible to translate in any language of Earth, as a bright light then shines before him, and all you can see is a figure of a person in bright white robes, with a light shining off them so bright that you cannot make out any features of them. As it speaks to him, the words make the ground shake, and again, the words spoken cannot be translated by any language of Earth, with Walter bowing down on one knee. I have a problem that I need to discuss with you. I have an issue, says Walter, with the being speaking one last time as the ground shakes from the vibrations of the very words from the being's mouth. Though Walter does not react with the intimidation nor the fright that you would assume a person would react, but instead reacts as if this is what he is accustomed to, as he then stands up from his bow and straightens out his back. The issue that I'm having is the person you have set me down to protect at all costs. Well, it has become clear to me that it will either be, it'll either be him or I. It'll be either him or I, and I have only 4 days. I only have 4 days on this earth, and so tell the Guardians, the Dracula, the newest Guardian, he is going to kill me in 4 days, and when that happens, there will be no one to protect Al Manasta. And so you'll either have to send down someone else, or give me permission to tell Vince that he is indeed one of the other ones. Yeah, I'm gonna have to tell Vince that he is one of the other ones, or else in the 4 days, when I die, Vince will not be able to protect Al Manasta. Al Manasta will die unless Vince knows, unless he knows that he is one of the other ones. I need to tell him. He needs to know, says Walter, with the figure only standing there, motionless, for quite some time, until it finally nods its head and speaks words once again that creates an earthquake beneath them, shaking the ground, and then disappears, with Walter nodding his head and turning around, facing the HQ as he begins to head back to see what exactly the group have decided they're going to try to do to solve this impossible issue. As Walter returns to the HQ, he sees Alex on her computer transferring $5 million from the Yin Yang's account into Howard's personal account, as Howard loads a very large military bag, usually meant for clothes and other luggage, with nothing but weaponry as he loads it with countless amounts of explosives, sawed-off shotguns and rifles, with plenty of ammunition for all of it. And if the bag being full wasn't enough, he also has loaded himself with plenty of weapons on his person, as his belt is covered in revolvers, and he even has smaller guns tucked away under his jeans and in his boots. As he prepares to leave, Abraham quickly walks up to him.
Now, I understand that you are intending this to be a suicide mission, and I understand that you must do what needs to be done. But if you can come back, please do come back. I would very much appreciate it if you returned, says Abraham, with Howard patting him on the shoulder. It all right, my good friend. I gotta do what's gotta be done. And if I can return, I will. But the second Dracula is injured, I do believe that'll be my final breath. So, Vince, Abraham, Alex, and Walter, I do believe this is goodbye, says Howard as he begins walking away to his proposed suicide. Dracula sits at the top of a skyscraper in Pennsylvania with a makeshift throne that he had the genetic blessings build for him as he continues ruling with an iron fist, and as of late he has been spending hours having to console his troops and his army as genetic blessings begin fighting amongst each other in fear of how they are going to accumulate food and how they are going to afford to continue fighting with no more income. And though Dracula has implemented fear upon them, the genetic blessings have begun fighting amongst themselves, killing each other for supplies and food, with Dracula growing ever so more angry at the scheme that Vince had played, the fool that Vince had made of him. However, he only has to make it 4 more days, just 4 more days, and he will no longer have to worry about Walter, for he knows Vince will kill Walter before ever having to lose Al, and with the agent of the Guardians being gone, he will be free to do whatever he needs to do to win the war. Howard has finally approached the city that Dracula resides in, and has managed to avoid all the genetic blessing camps as he looks through the scope of his gun, searching for Dracula. He finally finds him sitting comfortably on top of a skyscraper, and so he equips himself with the headphone and puts the earpiece in his ear so that he can talk directly to Alex, as he uses Alex to do a reconnaissance of the area, hacking into any camera that may still be functioning, and Alex begins guiding Howard through the city as Howard pulls out a large Bowie knife and slices the throat of any genetic blessing he can manage to sneak up on, as he goes from building to building, from corner to corner, from street to street, road to road, slowly getting closer and closer to Dracula. He has managed to kill over 20 genetic blessings without even getting caught, as he slices the throat of every single one with malice. He is only a few blocks away from Dracula,
And Al, Vince, Abraham, and Alex watch as they grind their teeth and bite their nails, wondering how far Howard might actually be able to make it before getting caught. And to all of their surprise, Howard has finally made it to the skyscraper that Dracula resides. However, he only makes it to the very bottom floor as he sneaks in and chains all the entrances. He now has to climb over 30 stories to get to his target, and it does not help that this building is covered in genetic blessings as if they are ants surrounding an ice cream cone. And so Howard pulls out 2 grenades from his bag as he pulls the pins and throws them both at the first group of genetic blessing that he sees. And with the explosion, the only perks is that it kills that small group of genetic blessings, but has attracted every other genetic blessing both inside and outside the building, as they are all now rushing towards the sound of the explosion, with the genetic blessings on the outside unable to get in. Howard only has to worry about the genetic blessings inside the building. However, time is not on his side, for those chains will only hold up so long, especially if there is an aggressive type lurking around. And so, Howard hides behind a corner as he pulls out a sawed-off shotgun and holds it in his right hand, and then pulls out a revolver in his left hand. As he peeks around the corner, he sees 5 genetic blessings rushing towards him, and so he loads the revolver as he calculates exactly what bullets he needs to use and exactly how he's going to pull off killing 5 genetic blessings that he has no idea which ones they are and what abilities they hold. As he pulls the first trigger towards the 5 genetic blessings, it is a bullet for the manipulation type as it whistles and stings past them, creating a loud noise. One of the genetic blessings drops, holding its ears, as he then quickly swings the shotgun around, pulling the trigger, killing the 1 genetic blessing that has been injured by the manipulation bullet. With it killing the weakest one, he now only has to worry about the 4, which are coming up fast. And as he peeks around the corner one more time, he sees one of the genetic blessings morphing its muscles, confirming it is an aggressive type as he quickly switches his guns to one that is preloaded with the right bullets as he pulls the trigger, and an electrical flows through a bullet and connects to the aggressive type's chest as it instantly kills him, with Howard then switching bullets once again and shooting at the ground with a bullet expanding into ice, temporarily stopping the other 3 genetic blessings as Howard then charges towards him with his Bowie knife and his sawed-off shotgun. He dives towards one, shoving the knife into its throat with only 2 left. He quickly shoves the barrel of the sawed-off shotgun into one of their groins and pulls the trigger. No matter what their ability is, they will never survive a wound quite like that, and with 1 shot left in the sawed-off shotgun, he quickly spins around, shoving the barrel into the neck of the very last genetic blessing. And before the genetic blessing has a chance to use its abilities, the bullets have already been fired from the shotgun, and so many holes have now been spewed into its neck that its head is only hanging by small amounts of skin and flesh. With the 5 genetic blessings now dead lying there, Howard then pulls out a rifle out of his bag and begins climbing every single floor of the building shooting and firing and throwing his explosives, shooting down every single genetic blessing that comes his way, and Howard then uses his greatest ability, his secret ability, the one thing that has allowed him to be such a deadly opponent for all genetic blessings, the one thing that allowed him to gain the upper hand on Vince so many years ago, the one thing that has made everyone fear his name. As every bullet connects to a genetic blessing, he remembers when he was a child, watching his sister lie sick in her bed, coughing up blood, and barely being able to breathe, with his father consistently coming home and beating him for, as far as Howard knew, seemingly no reason at all. And unfortunately for Howard, his mother was never around to protect him, for she was always conked out, filled with meth and drugs, alcohol, and without the protection of his mother and with the aggression of his father, all he could do was get beat so that his sister would never have to face the brutality, though it was already too late for her. She unfortunately came down with cancer and was not going to survive much longer unless they could come up with the money, unless they could come up with cash to give her the proper treatment, but that was quite unlikely. And so, with every bullet, with every genetic blessing he kills, he feels every strike from his father. He feels every neglected day from his mother, and every teardrop from his sister. And this is why Howard can fight. This is what gives Howard the strength to pull the trigger over and over and over as Howard climbs. All he needed that day, all he needed was money. The only thing he ever needed was money. If he had the money, he would be able to afford rehab for his mother. He would have been able to afford a lawyer to get rid of his father, and he would have been able to afford the treatment for his sister. But that is a what if. That is a could have been. And so, with every bullet he shoots, another dollar is made so that he can send it to the proper organizations, to the proper facilities, so that no other man, not a single other child, has to watch his sister die, watch his mother suffer, and every dollar goes to hopefully save a child that does not have enough money. And with Howard finally firing his last bullet, he has one more floor to clear, just one more floor to climb. And with all his explosives and all his ammunition gone, he pulls out one more Bowie knife that he has, and he is now going to have to fight through the final crowd of genetic blessings, the final round before he gets to the boss, with nothing more than a knife. As he begins swearing at himself, for how will he possibly get to Dracula and hope to injure him with nothing more than a blade? And so he begins feeling around his pockets, hoping that he can find something, anything to help him out. And all he can find is a lighter. A simple lighter to light his final cigar. And so he begins looking around as he goes from room to room to room. And he starts finding any pipeline, any propane leading pipeline, and begins unscrewing them, letting the propane just spew out. And he begins doing this in every room that he can find that has a pipeline to any type of propane. And then he begins climbing to the final floor, and as he opens the door, there is a crowd of genetic blessings waiting for him as he throws his blade at one of them, connecting it into their skull. He then runs back down the stairs with the genetic blessings following him, chasing him. One manages to grab him and has unnatural strength as the pure grip of his hands snaps the arm of Howard. However, Howard refuses to give up as he grabs the railing in the staircase and manages to muster up all the strength he has, all the adrenaline he's saved up, and tears it out of the wall and smashes it against the genetic blessing, forcing it to let go of its grip as Howard falls down the stairs, breaking several ribs. He forces himself back on his feet as he stumbles back into the last bottom floor, with the genetic blessings following him and chasing him and trying to grab him. He then grabs his lighter, and with a flick of the lighter, an explosion ignites, rising up into the building, rising up into every floor, killing the last of the genetic blessings, with Alex, Al, Vince, and Abraham waiting to hear anything from Howard. With Alex looking at her monitor and shifting from camera to camera to camera to any camera that would allow her, any camera that's not broken or busted, searching for Howard, looking for Howard, with Abraham silent as he takes his hat off, and Vince staring intensely at the monitor, with Al too staring, waiting, hoping that Howard has made it, that Howard did not die just to kill some genetic blessings. For this was their one chance, their only hope. And Alex finally begins to shed tears as she finally gets a glimpse of the top of the skyscraper, with Howard standing on the top, staring down at Dracula, with Dracula standing tall. Howard is burnt, injured, and broken as he glares at Dracula with no weapons, no explosions, no firearms, not even a blade. And Vince can't help but wonder how this man plans on injuring Dracula, or even getting close enough to touch him, when some of the strongest genetic blessings couldn't even stand a chance against Dracula. And Abraham begins to feel fear. He needs to get out of there. He needs to leave. He's going to die. Do you really think that you are going to kill me? Responds Dracula, with Howard not saying a word, but begins walking towards Dracula, with Dracula smiling. I am sorry, but a human pathetic aunt has no chance against the likes of me," continues Dracula. However, Howard continues to ignore him as he continues walking towards Dracula, hoping to get close enough, hoping that Dracula is cocky enough to let him near. As Dracula then begins erupting spears out of the ground, flinging towards Howard. Howard somersaults across the rooftop, dodging 3 of them, and then one comes out directly beneath him. However, Howard manages to kick the side of it and fling himself away, with multiple spears now flying towards him out of the ground, trying to impale him. He manages to use his feet and his hands to bounce off of each one as he's now flying towards Dracula. He flings himself with one of the spears as he flies towards Dracula and swings his leg, kicking Dracula across the face. However, Dracula's face hardly even moves. His head hardly even gets knocked back, and the kick breaks the leg of Howard. However, Howard doesn't seem fazed as he lands on both feet. Even with one of his legs being broken, he stands now toe-to-toe with Dracula. With Dracula swinging a punch towards Howard, Howard dodges it as he sidesteps to the left, knowing that only one punch will be all it takes to kill him. Only one punch from this god, from this guardian, from this count. One strike, one kick, one punch, one grab, and Howard will never have the chance to injure this man. And so Dracula begins throwing punch after punch, and then continues erupting his spears, trying to land one strike on Howard. However, Howard moves like that of a cat, with the reflexes that no human being should be capable of, as he dodges every single punch, every single kick, and every single spear, dancing around Dracula. Even with a broken arm, a broken leg, and shattered ribs, Howard dances around the Guardian, dodging every strike, as if he is waiting for something, as if he is waiting for one moment. As Vince watches this on the monitor, he looks at Al. "Al, do you ever remember a time where Howard didn't have anything to say? Do you remember a time where he didn't have a nasty comeback, a clever quip, or just a crude joke? Have you noticed that Howard is refusing to talk? He's refusing to respond. Isn't that out of character?" says Vince, without looking at him. "Well, I'm pretty sure it is out of character. The guy's about to die, Vince. I wouldn't feel much like talking either," says Al, with Abraham interjecting. "No, Vince has a point. Howard thought he was going to die when we fought the chief, and he had plenty to say. There is definitely something going on." "That is absolutely correct. Alex, I need you to broadcast this worldwide," says Vince, with Alex nodding her head and quickly broadcasting the fight between Howard and Dracula, as Dracula's army, the Genetic Blessings, along with all of humanity, watch the fight between Howard and Dracula as they watch Howard fling himself from spear to spear and getting close to Dracula. They see him kick Dracula across the face and then rope-a-doping and dodging every strike as he dances around Dracula. With the world watching this man, this human being, fighting Dracula, and as Howard is dodging Dracula's punches, Dracula becomes furious and is beginning to become annoyed and impatient as his strikes become faster yet sloppy, allowing Howard to dodge them with far more ease than he had to in the beginning, with Howard finally seeing an opening and his time is about up. Howard then bear hugs Dracula, wrapping his arms and even his legs around Dracula like a monkey, and Howard then opens his mouth, revealing that he managed to shove a frag grenade into his mouth, lodging it, locking his jaw and shattering his teeth. With an entire grenade shoved in his mouth, Dracula becomes horrified as Howard then headbutts Dracula, and the only thing the world can see after that is an explosion with both of them covered in a red smoke. And with the world now quiet, with humanity being given hope and the genetic blessings being given fear, the smoke clears with only pieces of Howard being left. Dracula remains standing. However, the world remains silent. The genetic blessings still are consumed by fear, and humanity has far more hope than they ever have had, with Dracula's nose being completely shattered, missing a piece of his ear, and one of his eyes being swollen shut. Dracula has tremendous rage, tremendous embarrassment for a human being. A single man managed to do this to him, managed to break his nose, remove a piece of his own flesh, and now he can only see out of one eye, and he has never felt this kind of pain, not in over 1,000 years. With Vince, Alex, Al, and Abraham, and even Walter feeling a combination of pride and sorrow, Howard has taken his final breath and probably has done one of the most important things in order to win this war. For now, genetic blessings have doubt. The genetic blessings now doubt the once mighty Count Dracula. They now doubt their own abilities to take on the human race, let alone the other genetic blessings the human race has managed to recruit. They doubt if they can manage to take on Vince and Abraham. And with the hope being restored into humanity, Vince is forced to remain on the sidelines, for the human race cannot find out that he is returned or that he is a part of the Yin Yangs. Though Al, Walter, and Abraham are sent out with their own units as they begin fighting back against the genetic blessings, and the clock is beginning to tick as the days are slowly getting closer to the ultimatum that Dracula had once given Vince, though hope is rising, for they might be able to win this war in a few amount of days. Though Vince knows that nothing is this easy, nothing is that simple, and with Dracula having the fear of loss, having the fear that he may not succeed, he will do something. He will do something cruel, something drastic, something evil, horrible, in order to make sure he gets his way, though Vince doesn't know what. As Alex too ponders the same things that Vince ponders, Alex's biggest fear is that Dracula has access to the God Orb and has yet to use it. And what would happen if Dracula decides to use the God Orb? Will this all be for nothing? Will all their sacrifices be in vain? She hopes to never have to find out, for they only have one day left. As Abraham, Walter, and Al, and the rest of the human race has been fighting against Dracula's army for the past 2 days, 2 days since Howard's sacrifice, only one day remains. Only one day stands between the death of either Walter or Al. And that is Genetic Wars Chapter 5, and I will be continuing it in Genetic Wars Chapter 6. If you guys could not tell, unlike Genetic Blessings, I have not installed parts, because this is going to be a much shorter story than Genetic Blessings, but it is not going to be the last story. I will have another one, and I am sorry if this story has taken a while to pick up speed. I had to. This is the middleman. This Genetic Wars is the middleman between Genetic Blessings and my next one, which I'm not going to give the title to yet. And this has been a very hard script to do, and it's been a very, very hard story to tell, because unlike Genetic Blessings, I don't have a clean slate. I had to, continue things from Genetic Blessings, and I have to be able to tell a good story within Genetic Wars while also trying to keep continuity with my previous Genetic Blessings, and I really want to get things set up for the future story. So it was running slow there for a while, and I appreciate you guys for sticking in there, and thank you guys very, very much for listening. And if you made it this far, thank you very much. And if you enjoy, like always, hit the like and subscribe button. Take care of yourselves. Do not get by Meteor, and bye.